looking at me and saying the same thing. It doesn't matter. Arsene Wenger's 9-year wait is over. Arsenal's 9-year wait is over. The FA Cup final has in the end gone to Premier League form, but they were 2-0 down, the Wenger boys, so early. But they turned it around. And Aaron Ramsey has the Wales flag wrapped around him. Bakary Sagna says goodbye, I think, to Arsenal, but what a way to do it. I use this phrase about the League Cup final, about Sunderland and Manchester City. The pride to Hull, the prize to Arsenal.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I think we have to heap great praise on those Hull City players for the way they stayed at it. Yes, they knew they had an exceptional start to this game and that Arsenal were likely to respond, but they made Arsenal work every second of this game to get what they finally achieved. And yes, Arsene Wenger and his players do deserve to lift this trophy now, but I really do feel for the likes of those Hull City players and Tom Huddleston, Curtis Davis, because they could not have given it any more.
Well, Arsene Wenger is the manager that Arsenal kept true to. The board backed him from 2005 here to 2014. The FA Cup was the last trophy. And they didn't play very well that day against Manchester United. They certainly weren't the better side. It went to penalties and they won it. And that is what cup ties are all about. But they were very, very slow out of the blocks here at Wembley today. And goals from James Chester and from Curtis Davis. But Santi Cazorla came along to make it 2-1. And then once Laurent Koscielny just somehow got a bit on it for the equaliser. You did feel that the momentum, is often used word in modern-day football, was with Arsene Wenger and his players, but it took till late in the game, in the second period of extra time. And what a worthy goal to win a cup final, Jim.
It really was. It was an absolute beauty. He'd been probably a little reckless on one or two efforts at goal prior to that, but when that moment came, yes, he struck it with technical perfection. Aaron Ramsey, and yes, it's done the trick for Arsenal again, and it was a long wait, and we did say at the start as well, Martin, that it probably was one of these finals that Arsene Wenger dare not lose, because immense criticism would have followed. But I've always loved watching his teams, the style of football, and I'm pleased to see them get another trophy. And I think overall, as hard as it is for Hull to take, Arsenal do merit the victory.
And as we await the trophy presentation, a little business to take care of here. Those of you watching on Sportsnet World, you will see the German Cup final currently underway at the conclusion of our telecast. Meantime, it is available right now on Sportsnet World Online. That's the German Cup between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. As the celebrations continue at Wembley, with Arsenal having defeated Hull by a score of 3-2 and have won the FA Cup. It's the 5th FA Cup under Arsene Wenger. They won it in 1998, 2002, 2003, 2005, and now in 2014. Is it enough, Danny, do you think, for Arsene Wenger to stay and sign a new contract at Arsenal?
That's a good question, a very good question, because I think we were bordering that timeline where some fans were questioning whether he's going to be around, whether he's right to stay around, whether he moves upstairs. So maybe Wenger did save his job with this last goal, this last minute, not goal, but extra time goal from Aaron Ramsey. Now I think they have to look on the positives. Arsenal can now reset that clock. They can reset that clock and go on to bigger and better things. And the commentator was right. They were doing very well early on in the season. A couple of injuries, the loss of form of Ozil. But Ramsey's injury was a big negative for them, and they really missed him, and it showed what they missed with that extra time goal. Superb strike.
Greg, you answer the question. Do you think he'll stay?
Yeah, I do. I just believe that's the structure of the club, and I think he would have gone a long time ago if they're going to let it go. Wenger also said that he didn't think his fate would be decided by this game, and that's probably the fact, and it probably is true. But it certainly relieves some pressure from him, at least, and from Arsenal Football Club, because the fans have, like I said, it's not a cheap place to go watch football, Arsenal, and they play some great stuff, but at the end of the day, it's about trophies and winning trophies, and that's what the fans want to see, and finally they get to see one for the first time in 9 years. I think Wenger's job is safe, yes.
So Arsenal have defeated Hull to win the FA Cup by a score of 3-2, as Craig just said, their first trophy in 9 years. Now, it was a valiant effort by this Hull City side, their first ever opportunity, or it would have been their first major trophy had they been able to hang on to an early lead that they built. Remember, it was 2-0 way back when, so let's show you how they got to that point, and then, of course, Arsenal winning. But here it is, this corner kick in the 4th minute, and then it goes off and in. It was James Chester who got the goal, whether or not they defended this one properly.
Well, it was a terrific start from Hull's point of view and really got to Arsenal and hit him with a sucker punch early on. It didn't defend it well at all. Didn't really come out of the dressing room trying to finish this game off or play this game in first gear, which you just can never do in the FA Cup. And they found themselves 1-0 down very, very quickly. And Steve Bruce knew that they had to pounce on every opportunity, and they absolutely did right there.
And then Curtis Davis making it 2-0.
Yep, again, Hull, great strike. Within 8 minutes, they're 2-0 up. And who would have thought that, you know? But again, Arsenal's frailties at the back, defending very lethargically. But Hull being very aggressive, attacking the ball, anticipating the ball as well. And look, this is a great finish by Davis, who's usually as good at the other end in clearing stuff, but he puts that in and gives Hull that 2-0 lead. Within 8 minutes, it was a surprising start for Hull.
And one thing it did was liven up the game because Arsenal were forced to really come on, and boy, they did. That was a great free kick goal from Santi Cazorla.
Yeah, it was terrific. And just before that, as remember, the son of Steve Bruce, Alex Bruce, had a chance to make it 3-0. So nearly all three defenders got a chance. And then it was just brilliant set piece. McGregor got caught going one way and then had to go back the other. But still, it was an absolutely magical free kick from Cazorla.
Then Lauren Koscielny with the equalizer to make it 2-2. But should this goal have counted, as we watch here in the replay, Danny, it was very close as to whether or not this was a corner kick.
Well, I think it adds up because it wasn't a corner kick, but just before that, I thought Cazorla had a stonewall penalty decision ruled out by the referee. But again, here we can see it goes off Sanelgo. There's no deflection from the Hull defender, and it results in this corner kick. And again, it's a lucky deflection here. Falls to Koscielny, who's very good on his feet. He's very agile. He turns very quickly. Look, he reacts good. And the keeper, McGregor, cannot save it. Just goes between his legs. Again, lucky deflection off the back of the head. I think it's off Giroud. Koscielny adjusts very well.
Yeah,
puts it in the back
he had to
of
be
the net.
somewhat brave there because he must have known that McGregor was coming in behind him as well to hammer him. And then in extra time, you see this terrific bit of football, back heel by Giroud, and the quick shot catches McGregor off right just inside the post. Well deserved. It was coming, and finally for Arsenal, they got it.
They had all the chances in the extra time, and so you felt that perhaps the goal would come, and it did. And there is the new FA Cup. They've retired the old one after 22 years of service, and so the new FA Cup will be awarded shortly to Arsenal, who are champions this year of the FA Cup. Once again, their first trophy in 9 years, their 5th FA Cup under Arsene Wenger. And so the drought is over for now, and we'll see what kind of a team Arsenal have next year. The other thing that this is important to, from Hull's point of view, Danny, is that they have qualified for the Europa League. Had they won this, they'd go straight to the group stage, but since they lost, they now have to enter at the 3rd qualifying stage. And so it's a very short summer.
Very short summer, and I think there'll be a lot of fans cheering in Merseyside tonight because Everton now go into that group stage without having to qualify, so it's less games for Roberto Martinez and his team. So Everton will be very happy tonight. Hull a little bit upset with that, how it finished up as well.
What happened here, Craig, from Fabianski's point of view?
Well, Fabianski's trying to back up because I don't know, Mertesacker gets all caught up, and he's trying to come. Again, it's a decision-making of goalkeepers that make or break it, and Fabianski gets caught out here. Fortunately, his defenders get back. The ball wasn't going in anyway, but it was an opportunity for Hull at the end at the depth where Arsenal nearly given a gift again, and Steve Bruce knew that was their chance, and there was the last opportunity missed.
And so there are the Hull players being applauded, and the handshakes with the Arsenal players. Back to the Hull situation, Danny, with them having to qualify, being such a short summer, it's going to make things really difficult for them to hit the ground running in the new season, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Steve Bruce has to start that straight away. Even on the bus trip home, he has to pick these players' heads up, sort out contracts for who he wants to bring back next year, because it's going to happen pretty soon. They're going to get the World Cup or watch the World Cup. Some players are going to be leaving for the World Cup, coming back to an early pre-season. But going back to what he's done this year, Steve Bruce has done a magnificent job. I feel really sorry for this whole team because they played so well, As Martin Tyler pointed out, it was an enthralling cup tie. We thought they were going to sit back and kind of hope to keep it tight towards the end of the game to maybe take it to penalty kicks, but they really came out. They took the game to Arsenal and they took a deserved 2-0 lead. But, we always thought that Arsenal had it in their armour, that they would come back and unfortunately it did so for Hull in the end.
You know, and Hull actually being in Europe, they're in great company. It's an amazing tournament when you see Europa League finals between Sevilla and Benfica. Juventus were in the semi-finals as well. The final was in Turin. To have Hull named in amongst those clubs is a pretty special moment, but they have to take it in a stride. It is what it is, and bottom line is they have to maintain their Premier League status because that's where their money is going to come from. There'll be £50+ million come from TV money. Europa League's not going to keep you there. That's an added bonus to be great for the club, but it's very, very taxing, and they have to just make sure they look after themselves in the Premier League. That's first and foremost.
They're collecting their silver medals now, their runners-up medals, that is. Now, back to Arsenal for a moment. Jose Mourinho said earlier this season that Arsene Wenger is a specialist in losing. Well, perhaps he's a specialist in winning the FA Cup because his team now tied with Manchester United for the most FA Cup wins. They finished 4th in the Premier League this season. They were top of the table more days than any other team, and yet they failed at the end. And so what about Arsenal next year as a true contender for the Premier League title?
Well, I think Arsene Wenger knows the frailties within their squad. Defensively, I still think they need someone at the back to go alongside Koscielny and Mertesacker because they can't last the whole season week in, week out in the Premier and the Champions League. At fullback, I still think they need help there because Monreal was not a good inclusion for this squad, and also Sagna, that could be his last game this year. And then up top, we've seen this year that they have the midfield attacking power, but they need someone up there with Giroud to try and take the load off of him, but also a goal scorer as well. So they're the big things on the market for Arsenal this year. Going into the transfer window, he'll be scouting at the World Cup, looking to see who they can bring in.
Steve Bruce was so eloquent before the game in the pre-match news conference talking about how important this would be for Hull to win, what it would mean for the city. Economic times not all that great in that part of the United Kingdom. And unfortunately for his team, they fell just short at the end, but he has done a terrific job to keep Hull in the Premier League. And what about their prospects next year, Craig? They survived relegation, not by a whole lot, though.
No, and it's going to be just as difficult again as last year and next year as well for them as well. We say, you haven't seen Steve Bruce over his career as a player or manager walk up those stairs very often as a loser. He's had 8 domestic cup finals, including the one where he won the League Cup with Norwich City back in 1985, I believe it was. He's been incredibly successful at this tournament and domestic cup competition. It's disappointing for him, but he has to be pretty proud of a team that got this far in the first place, the first time in a final of the FA Cup in 110 years.
The victorious players from Arsenal now heading up to receive their medals as we send it back to Martin Tyler and Jim Beglin.
It's a nice touch because he hasn't had huge involvement this season either.
The captain on the day is following him. But this is a day when defeat was not only unpalatable, it really was unthinkable for Arsenal Football Club. They have rediscovered their winning ways. Just to remind you again, a record equalling 11th triumph in the FA Cup, matching Manchester United as they have done with their 18th appearance in the finals. And Arsene Wenger is revelling in the moment, and you can't blame him. I just wonder what the plan is here for the presentation. The medalists are there. Arteta and Vermaelen are waiting. Maybe they're going to involve the manager as well. Who knows? Puff of the cheeks. There's a moment that sums up how it's been for the professorial French manager today. Has been a long wait for him. Their last success in any competition was in this very tournament in 2005. Their painful wait of 9 years without silverware is over. There's a lot of puffing of cheeks there, as if to say, well, we have done it, but we have done it the hard way. Asamoah Lamb, the owner of Hull, paying his compliments. Vermaelen is edging into shot. Arteta is edging into shot. Arsenal have their hands on a trophy again. They are winners of the 2014 FA Cup, even without the lid. And no wonder he got to it very quickly. The somewhat beleaguered but hugely admired manager Arsene Wenger. Jim Beglin, your thoughts on the Arsenal day?
Well, I think they've done remarkably well to come back from a shocking start, and they retained their composure and their belief, knowing that they probably had the quality to come through in the end. I'm very pleased for Arsene Wenger, because I think the teams he has produced over the years in English football, and some of them have been a real joy to watch. And he's had to wait quite a bit for this one to enjoy some success, but it is fully merited on the day.
Antje Flamini getting in on the act. We haven't seen that smile very often, have we? A lot of the camera shots, particularly over the second half of the season, have been of the grimace, the face of disappointment, the greying hair, the hollowing of the cheeks, and the wondering whether his time had come to an end. A glorious time, but when you look at the silverware he managed to achieve right from the off, really, it came to a shuddering halt in 2005. And when, of course, they left Highbury a year later, so much of the money that could get you a trophy-winning team went into the new ground.
Yeah. I still think, again, maybe when you look back at that side with the Vieiras and the Petits, and I think maybe he needs to kind of add something a little more physical, a little more robust in parts, which might just do the trick for Arsenal again too. But they're not far away, and certainly with the likes of Ramsey fit, Walcott to come back next season, I think they'll be much better for it. And great scenes now, and seeing the players celebrate with the trophy.
Well, they've had to live with it all. The new ground even emphasises it all, because they put up all the winning years of the trophies in the past. And of course nothing since the Emirates was opened. Now they will have, when we go for the first Premier League game or early in the new season in August, there will be a new date up there alongside a drawing and etching of the FA Cup. It will say 2014.
Yes, I just wonder as well, and it's not a day for talking about Mourinho or other managers, but I just wonder if he might retract his specialist in failure jibe now, because that was uncalled for and unfair.
In Arsene, many trusted, the majority trusted, and that trust has been justified. He's going to go back down the way he came, not the way the players have gone. He's going to leave now centre stage to his team, and they are in the party mood.
I was just going to say, I mean, I was fortunate to win that trophy once upon a time, Mark. And as a Liverpool player, we went behind to Everton as it was that day. We weren't 2 down, we were 1 down, and it was hard enough coming back. So, but it does always give you something extra to come back from a position like that to achieve victory and glory as it is today. Yeah, it makes it that little bit more special.
It's a wonderful win in its own right, but in the context, there's just something on it extra, isn't it?
Yeah, always. Because at one stage, it looked as if it just could be a horror afternoon, a horror evening. It could get away from Arsenal completely. If Alex Bruce was to score with his header and make it 3-0 for Hull City, then who knows how this game would have ended up. But they believed and they came good.
I think someone wants Arsene Wenger's shirt as a souvenir. It's not got Arsenal on it anywhere. Except the sweat of the man who has had a bit to sweat about today.
And the fine line between criticism and worship.
Even more so in modern day football. The players don't get changed very easily. The chief executives will never vote for themselves being changed, so it's the manager who bears the brunt. And all credit to Arsenal, who have stuck against considerable outcry, certainly from some of the shareholders and a section of the supporters. They back their man, and their man is a winner again, and their team is a winner. Arsenal.
Arsene Wenger appearing as though he doesn't like it, but he's enjoying every minute of this.
Absolutely. He's like, is this what it was like 9 years ago when we won our last one? Absolutely fantastic. The Bears having a great time. It just shows you it's a little bit of light relief because there's a ton of pressure in the game of football. There's always high expectations, and Arsene Wenger should enjoy it just like the rest of them.
Danny, the last time you looked like that was on a Saturday night, not that long ago, right?
Yeah, last Saturday night, actually. He's going to have to visit the dry cleaners pretty quickly. But I think it also shows the team spirit involved within this Arsenal squad. They've taken a lot of hits in the last 2 or 3 years about not picking up trophies, including from myself as well. So it's good to see the players all back in Wenger. He's a big part of Arsenal Football Club.
Okay, so Arsenal have won the FA Cup by a score of 3-2.